So hello all and welcome. It is I, the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher, because at the end of the day, I am nothing more than a realist. So how y'all doing today? I hope you're all doing good, fine, and well. So in this video, I wanted to talk about something that I can't believe is still a thing. I can't believe it's a thing because of all the information that exists out there. All of the horror stories that are readily available, and if anybody's ever watched TV, has seen for themselves. And that is the phenomenon of the step dad. I don't get this. Wanting your own kids, I get. That's your genes. That's your legacy being passed on. And I can also understand if you get with someone and you want to be with them for the rest of your life and one of you is unable to have kids, so you adopt. I can also understand adoption. It's a last resort. You don't have a choice if you want kids unless you're a woman, in which case you could get somebody like a family friend or someone that was actually family or just somebody anonymously, a donor to impregnate your egg, and in that way at least one of the parents is an actual bio parent. But even if not, and you adopt, I get that. You're able to raise that child, pass on your values, pass on your virtues, and for both of you, that child isn't your bio kid, but you're raising them in many cases from birth, and it's extremely expensive, by the way. I don't get why that's the case. If you want to adopt a kid here in America, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars and years and years. It's cheaper and easier to adopt some kid from China. Make that make sense. It's almost as if they don't want you to adopt American Western kids, and instead they want those kids to stay in the system. Which is horrible and messes kids up big time. But anyway, those things I can understand. But step parent, like raising some other dude's kids. So with the whole adoption thing, okay, it's not her former partner who's going to still be in the picture in many cases because he's the bio dad. With adoption, no. Except in some rare cases where you're adopting the kid as somebody like or something. Neither of you is going to know who the bio parent is. They're not going to have any place in the relationship. So you're both kind of in the same boat there, adoption-wise. And, yeah, I can understand that. But why would you want to, as a man, raise her kid, but it's not your kid, but it's some other dude's kid who's going to constantly be in the picture in most cases. And because of that, you're not going to really get the experience of being a parent or passing on your values, the things you hold dear, your virtues. Why would you want to do that? And why would you want to pay for that experience? Because as we all know, if you're the step daddy, i.e. you're marrying that chick, just by lieu of living in that house, you're going to have to be paying for those kids to a certain extent. Why you would do that, I don't know. Because in many of these cases, you are subsidizing the bad choices of women, i.e. they chose the wrong guy. Why you'd want to get into that situation, which is fraught with peril, because not only do you always have this guy constantly in the picture undermining you, but you also have the risk of her leaving you to get back with him, because most women would rather be with the father of their child, and you're clearly just a stand-in. Why would you want to put yourself in that situation? Why would you want to give women this backup so that they don't have to be held accountable for their bad choices? I don't know why guys continue to do this. It's a loss for them. You're not getting anything out of it. It's just going to cost you time and money. And because you're not the bio parent, but you likely will get some kind of emotional attachment to these kids, if you ever break up, you in most cases have no parental rights, unless of course you were dumb enough to adopt these kids. Oh, that oftentimes you're almost grown-ups when you get into the relationship. And so those kids are likely going to be resenting you. Oh, and even if you did adopt them, well, why would you want to do that in the first place? They're probably not going to want to, you're not going to get custody. 90% of the time, the bio dad, when two people get divorced, doesn't get custody. So you, the adopted dad, she'd have to be a drug addict, serial murderer. So I don't get it. I don't understand how this is still a thing, but it is. And I wanted to review this story that I came across. It's a perfect example of the mistakes men keep making. So let's just get right into it, shall we? POV. I think that stands for point of view. At 28, I married a mother of one and became a stepdad. I learned that love goes beyond blood ties. So this seems like to me a blue-pilled beta male kind of virtue signaling. Like, look at me. I'm doing everything right and then some. Not only am I saving this broad, but I'm saving this kid as well. I'm so virtuous. So if any of you have followed my content for a while, you know how I feel about men being selfless. We're already too selfless, and we're encouraged to be even more so. We're encouraged not to even think about or care about ourselves at all, because we right now live in a society that has become very socialistic, communistic in nature. So altruism, self-sacrifice is pushed as some kind of end-all be-all of virtue, and thinking about your own safety and well-being is somehow evil. So men who naturalistically sacrifice for the well-being of their family are now sacrificing for the well-being of other people's families. And that's where things are going too far. Becoming a stepdad at my age is very unconventional, but it's a step that I have not regretted. Yeah, you gotta be able to have your own kids. I mean, you're not the father of that kid, right? So since you have no biological connection to him, she's not going to have as much of a bond connection to you, and she's going to put that kid first. She's going to put that kid before you, always, because of that lack of bio connection. How do you feel about that, buddy? Simp. Self-assured and jovial. Self-assured. Jasper Chan meets us wearing standard Singaporean dad attire. Football jersey, Bermudas, and slippers. I wonder if that dad attire comes with a dad bod. I'd be willing to bet yes. This guy ain't too manly. Bermudas, football jersey, and slippers. So he's sitting down to have an interview, dressed like a bum. Big shocker there. His appearance belies his unconventional parenting journey, which we in Singapore want to push, because apparently we want to destroy our country and its culture, which began with being introduced to his now stepson. Oh, yeah. Last year, Chan and his wife also welcomed a second son. Well, now you got a baby with her, but she's also got a kid with another dude, so she's got split loyalties. Lovely. This Father's Day, we sit down with him to hear about his hidden joys and struggles of stepfatherhood. So tell us about yourself, Jasper. I could tell you everything you need to know about this guy. He's a simp, and he doesn't hold himself in high enough esteem. Case closed. 29 years old. I'm going to be 30 soon, and I'm a lawyer by profession. A lawyer in Singapore? By the way, Singapore is some of the cities that are there. I mean, it's one of the more expensive countries to live in, and he's a lawyer. At least in the cities, that is, expense-wise. And he's a lawyer, so he's a high earner. And he got with a single mother. Guys, this has to stop. I'm married with 2 kids, a 6-year-old stepson. How old is she? And an 11-month-old baby who is my biological son. Oh, God. When I first met my now stepson, he was around 3 years old. His mom and I were just friends then. Yeah, they were just friends. Yeah, he was in the friend zone. She was getting older. I guess she hooked up with a beta chat. So I guess she hooked up with an alpha chat, and as alpha chats tend to do, once the chick gets knocked up, they run for the hills, and so she needed somebody to take care of her. You know, the cost of living in Singapore is very high if you're in the cities. So we decided to pursue a serious relationship. So you were friends first. He was friend zone. Oh, really? A dude that was in the friend zone has decided to be a stepdaddy. Number one, never be in a woman's friend zone. It means you're desperate. It means you got some work to do on yourself, gentlemen. Friend zoning is what women do with guys they consider to be losers and beneath them, and you're just there to be an emotional tampon. You're there to be cheap therapy. You're there so she can take advantage of your more critical and analytical predictive capabilities as a man to help her work through her problems and be a shoulder to cry on because she got daddy issues in a lot of cases. Or she just recognizes that, men are the problem solvers. And just as often, women are the problem creators. So she wants you to solve her problems, but that's about it. All right, you don't get her wet down there. You know what I mean? So she's friend zoning you. And, if she's not able to find the dude she actually wants by a certain age, or if she wises up by a certain age, but doesn't wise up enough because she still isn't going to really appreciate you. She's not going to see anything beyond your utility because she can't, because she has the wrong mindset. Then she might want you to wife her up. But don't kid yourself, the guy she had the kid with, that she wants you to take care of, that's the guy she really wants. She just couldn't get him. Never be in the friend zone, because that's the guy that carries the emotional payload that the Chads and the Tyrones that she won't carry. And she's not attracted to you. She's not interested in you. If she was, you wouldn't be in the friend zone in the first place. So when we decided to pursue a serious relationship, we entered it with our eyes open. I think your eyes are well closed, pal. You're in a lot of denial. We know that we would have to work not just on our relationship, but also the relationship between me and my stepson. Yeah, this is another thing. I've got to work doubly hard as a step-parent, which I would never be, to form some kind of connection, some kind of bond with this kid. Because to date, he don't know who I am. I'm not the bio daddy. He knows I'm not the bio daddy. He's going to resent my presence in the house unless I've come in while he's a baby. And even then, if the bio daddy is still in the picture, well, he might be petitioning for visitation, and this is just going to confuse the kid, create division, and, of course, spur resentment of myself. Bad idea. Yeah. So you got to put in all this extra work to form some relationship with a kid that'll never be yours. Lovely. We started with spending small amounts of time together. That's because that's all she could tolerate of you. A woman that actually likes you and is into you, she's not going to be spending small amounts of time with you. She's going to be looking for excuses to be with you. So here's another indication of whether or not a chick is into you. If a chick is into you, she's going to jump at any opportunity to spend time with you. She's going to try to create opportunities to spend time with you. She's not going to be able to get enough of you. At least not in the beginning. That's for sure. During the honeymoon period, no way. But if you're having to work your butt off to spend time with her, you just spend little small amounts of time with her, she ain't into you, especially if you were in the friend zone prior. That by itself would tell you that she's not into you, but if that doesn't do it, this sure does. Like short trips out. Yeah, she didn't want anybody to see her and you together. That minimizes the possibility. I was introduced as Uncle Jasper. Oh, lovely. Uncle. Yeah. First time I met him, my now wife asked if he wanted to share some biscuits with me. I think that's what they call cookies. Or in these Asian countries, there's things like dietary biscuits. They're a little sweet, and they're supposed to help with digestion. Also very popular with the old folks in those countries. Blueberry Star Puff Biscuits, his favorite at the time. Interesting. And he said no, because I was a stranger. Yeah, See what I mean? Gotta put in all this effort for a kid that ain't even mine. The introduction was gradual and on his terms. On his terms. Yeah. So already we have a problem here. The kid is running the show. The mother's not running the show. The adults are not running the show. I don't give a crap if that's my kid or not. I'm the boss because I'm the grown-up. Now it's her kid. See, there's another problem. You don't have any ability to impose discipline. I mean, at the end of the day, the kid can just say, well, you're not my daddy. What are you going to do? He's right. Even if you marry the mother, he's just going to be, well, you're not my dad. So the kid's still not getting boundaries imposed upon him. And you're there, but you're getting disrespected by the kid, which the wife sees. And, that makes her more likely to disrespect you as well. Certainly doesn't cast you in a positive light in her eyes. From this guy exists to this guy seems fun. Yeah, because being a good parent, it's all about being fun and being their friend, right? I wanted to be a more permanent fixture in my life. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you give the kid money and treats and sweets and are just fun with him, sure, yeah, I want you to be a more permanent fixture, but wait until you try to impose some boundaries. Oh, man. We slowly eased him into spending more time with me. Okay. It was about respecting the time he needed to feel more comfortable around me. So when are you going to become his dad, though? Right? I mean, no, you'll never be his dad. That's the thing. There's too many years prior to you getting into this relationship where this kid had another daddy. And even if not, the truth of the matter is, it's her kid, not your kid. So she's always going to have an upper hand. She's always going to have more hands. She can use that kid as a lever in the relationship, and you're bonding with him against you because you have no real rights. And there's another thing you guys don't think about when you get into these relationships with these single mothers. Yes, we're the more rational, reasonable, critical, logical of the gender, but we're not emotionless. Okay? The bonds that we form might be more cerebral in nature, but they're still there, and there's still emotion there. And if we spend a lot of time with this kid and get emotionally attached, and she knows it, she can use that as a lever to have more hand, more power in the relationship. And what woman is not corrupted by power? Just look at the way things are in the Western world. You give an inch, they take a mile. So not your kid biologically, it is her kid biologically. She has 100% power, not only in regards to what happens to this kid, how he's raised, but because you formed a bond with that kid, but you don't have any real legal authority or right to be around that kid, she can now use that to lever 100% of the power in the rest of the relationship as well. So these are things you have to think about. If you want to have some kind of authority and want a submissive wife, this kind of situation won't work out at all. Of course, no guy that had half a brain or was dominant in the first place would get into a relationship with a single mother. So, yeah. Anyway, I remember the first time he melted my heart. We had brought him to an indoor playground. Indoor playground? Like one of those ninja gyms or something? I don't know. My wife left him with me when she needed to use the bathroom. Back then, he already saw me as a trusted adult, and he was okay with holding my hand, but that was all. That day, for the first time, he asked me to carry him. Okay, 3 or 4 at the time. How could I have denied those pleading eyes and that cute face? By the way, that's absurd. What are you doing carrying a 4-year-old, a 3 or 4, 5-year-old? He's old enough now and it's a he. Boys need to learn to be self-reliant at an early age. You shouldn't be carrying around a 4 or 5-year-old kid unless it's like an exceptional circumstance, like his leg just got cut and he's bleeding profusely and you had to wrap a tourniquet around his leg and now you're rushing to the hospital and you got to get him to the car, so you pick him up and you carry him. Because that's what you do in that situation. But 4 or 5-year-old boy need to be carried and babied? See the problem? No boundaries, no real masculine influence, and he really doesn't have the authority or the self-assuredness to assert himself as a male influence in this kid's life because he's not the bio daddy, so he doesn't want to overstep his bounds. And of course, this dude is a beta male, so he really doesn't have the assertiveness in the first place to be the father, to be a person who sets boundaries. Not that she probably wouldn't fight back against that, regardless, because he's not the bio daddy, and the kid would fight back against that as well. That's why you don't get into this situation. To me, that was not just a milestone, but a reflection of how our relationship and his comfort level with me have improved. Yeah, he knows he's got you in the palm of his hand. I moved in with my now wife and stepson after we got engaged, but we eased him slowly into the arrangement too. I was not officially a stepfather yet, but I was already playing a stepfather role. Why? It's not your kid. It's not your genes. My interactions with him involve caretaking, so you're a glorified babysitter, right? Alongside my wife, because that's really all you can be. Toilet training. Oh my God. How old is this kid? 3 or 4? Toilet training, jeez. Showering. So you're doing all of the muckety-muck stuff. I mean, where are the, but are you having the authority of a husband? Do you have the dominant role in the relationship? Are you setting the rules? Are you meting out the punishments? I don't think so, if there even are any punishments. These caretaker duties were small steps that also help to build our bond. Ooh, he sounds like a woman, doesn't he? It helped to build our bond. God, that's something I've noticed about a lot of these dudes. Most of these dudes that take on the step-parent role, dad body, 40% body fat, skinny fat, no muscle, skinny jeans, chunky, destiny looking, destiny bods, dad bod dudes that are about as far from masculine as a man can actually be while still being technically a man. Just soy infused, estrogen infused guys. Because that's the only type of man that would get into this bad a deal, that would accept this bad a contract. Oh, man. I have all the burdens, all the responsibilities of paying for and taking care of this kid, but I get no say. I have no hand in that relationship. Lovely. Yeah, what a bad deal. How did you try to deepen your relationship with your stepson? He loves going to the pool, playing with water, and looking at water. Likes looking at water. Kid doesn't sound too bright to me. So my wife and I try to indulge him. Oh, yeah. You try to indulge him, yeah, that's great. All right. Because you shouldn't indulge your kids only as a reward for achievement. No. Just indulge them for indulgence sake, right? Yeah, that's really bad parenting. Where are the boundaries? Your wife wants to indulge him. You should be saying, why? So this is another issue. When these beta male simps get into these kind of relationships, they often try to work far too hard to gain the trust and acceptance and love of that child. And they do so by wanting to be their friend, wanting to have a good relationship, so they don't impose boundaries. They don't even try to take on that role. They don't try to assert themselves as the father figure, even though that's exactly what they should be doing. And I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's really, really hard to do. It depends on the age of the child when you get into that relationship, how much of a presence the bio daddy actually has, what kind of man you are. And this, I would have to say, though, that no real man would get into a relationship with a single mother. So while I am not one for making absolute statements, because I'm sure there have to be outliers out there where the stepdad was able to step in and be an actual father who set boundaries and was a good parent, that seems to me, from what I've seen, to be an outlier. Generally speaking, the vast majority of the time, he tries to pander and cater to the child and the mother to be accepted by that child and that mother in the role of father figure. But all of that pandering and catering makes it impossible to establish boundaries. And again, not so deep down, you know, you're not this kid's father, you're not the bio parent, so that kind of makes you feel insecure insofar as taking up the position of a father figure, and then you never do, right? You're just their buddy, their pal, their friend. You're there, but you have no say. You want to be a man that has no say? And you're not going to have any say with her either, by the way, okay? So, yeah, let's just indulge the kid for no reason, bringing him to these places and introducing fun things like water slides to him. As we spent more time together, we also grew more comfortable with each other. Naturally, our relationship kept improving. I suppose it depends on what you consider improvement. Like, what kind of relationship did you have with the kid? I mean, he's 5. You're like 27, 28 at the time. You don't really have much in common. You need to take on a parental role, but you can't and or won't. So, yeah, you're not making things better. He is also interested in planets, galaxies, stars, and anything related to astronomy. You keep him interested and entertained. Oh, yeah, because that's the most important thing. Let's keep him interested and entertained. Yeah, I'll read up and talk to him about his interests. Yeah. I make it a point to relate to him by trying to share his pastimes and find new common interests. I introduced him to things I'm interested in, like Pokemon. 30-year-old man into Pokemon. Bookie2988 comes to mind. His favorite Pokemon changes all the time, but now it's unknown. I like to encourage his interests where I can and experiment with new experiences together. I think that's part of being a dad. Yeah, but you're not a dad. You're not a dad. None of this is being a dad. Where's the setting of boundaries, huh? Where are you talking about discipline? And what you do when the kid participates in bad behavior, when he does things that are bad. What about punishments? I want him to experience the fullness of a happy childhood. That's another problem here. You're so concerned and worried about getting his acceptance and his approval, and because you want that so much, make him happy. Happiness isn't the end-all be-all, yo. Kids need adversity. Kids need obstacles. They need difficulty in life to prepare them for the real world, because the real world is nothing but pain and obstacles and suffering and difficulties that you're gonna have to overcome. Happiness comes much later. And at a certain point, it is indeed a state of mind. But to reach that state of mind, usually you have to endure a lot. Most people anyway. And just making your kid happy sounds to me like you're not really introducing any obstacles in his life. I hope that through my efforts, he will realize that this person is here to stay. This person is important to me, and this person loves me. Well, you can't manufacture that, can you? And by the way, you'll be a heck of a lot more important to him if you're just some dude giving him treats and letting him do and get whatever he wants whenever he wants it. Trust me, all you're doing right now is creating a narcissistic, spoiled, entitled brat. But I must say I'm lucky, because I entered his life when he was very young and is open to changes and learning new things. He hasn't fixated on certain routines or members of the family yet. What are you talking about? He's 6 now? He was 3 or 4 when you met the mommy? Wrong. Most people's personalities are set by that age, okay? At least the fundamentals. This guy don't know what he's talking about. Step-parents have to work extra hard because young children are hardwired to look towards certain adults as their main caregivers. Yeah, why would I want to put in that work for something that's not mine? When step-parents enter the picture without that blood relation, it's extra hard to convince children that you can be trusted and relied upon, and that's tough. Yeah, so why would you want to do that? Once, he had a very bad stomach ache while we were out. We had to bring him to the clinic urgently. He refused to let me carry him. He only wanted mom. Yeah. He's hardwired to think that the stepfather figure, despite being nice, was not part of his immediate family. That's because you're not. I had already been in his life for a year, which is not insignificant in a child's life. But he only wanted mom. Yeah, I got news for you, pal. You're still not dad. I felt so helpless that day. It doesn't matter how you feel right now, by the way. You're still powerless and helpless. She has all the hand, which he seems okay with, which is what makes him a beta male. All I could do was pay the bill. That's all you could do, because that's the only reason you're there, and there you go. He highlights the issue right there, and all he actually is in the relationship. He's an ATM. What are you doing paying the bill? Dude, do you really like being a human ATM, a walking wallet? Is that this tells you right here all this guy has to give, all he thinks he has to give. This tells you how low an opinion he has of himself. He paid the bill. It's her kid, dude. Doesn't she have a job? Why are you paying the bill for her kid? Anyhow, it continues by saying part of being a dad is self-sacrifice. Yeah, but you're not a dad. You're a stepdad. Anyhow, he goes on to get into challenges. The first challenge he faced was that of legitimacy. Yep. I talked about that already. In the eyes of the law, who are you to this child? The answer is you're nobody and you're a stepfather, precisely. Guys, we're there to set boundaries. We feel the most purpose and fulfillment when we play to our strengths, what we were designed for, what we were made to do, evolutionarily speaking. If you cannot fulfill those design specs, if you cannot be the boundary setter, the rule maker, how happy are you going to be really? How fulfilled are you going to be in all actuality? Not very. Yeah. My wife was busy and wanted me to sign a consent form for him to go on an excursion. I couldn't because it said only parents are legal guardians. And this is where we get to the dummies adopting the kid. Even though you're not in the same boat, it's her kid biologically, but it's not your kid, right? At least with adoption, you're both equally illegitimate when it comes to biology. When I bring him to indoor playgrounds, there's also an indemnity. I can't sign the indemnity as I'm neither a legal guardian nor parent. So I'm sure his solution is to adopt the kid. What an idiot. I'm sure he would probably be thinking about doing this, if not doing it already, because it's expedient, right? It just makes things so much easier, yeah, for her. Put you on the hook, though, for a kid that ain't yours. Another difficulty for step-parenting is the custody and care and control arrangement. I want to create the shared experiences and memories that families usually have when they spend time together. Right, usually have. Unfortunately, the joint custody arrangement between his mom and bio dad, oh, I knew it, means I have less time with him. So the bio dad is still in the picture. So you'll never be the real father. He'll never see you as a real authority figure, and you'll never have that authority. You'll always just be a stand-in who has no hand. Until she decides that she's bored with you, just like she decided she was bored with Bio Daddy, and she'll move on. I understand that time is important to his biological father too, but that affects how our relationship progresses and how my stepson feels about our family. Then why would you get into a relationship with a single mother? You're a lawyer, you're a successful guy, you're a six-figure dude in one of the more expensive, if not one of the most expensive countries, cities in the world. Why in the world would you get with a single mother when you could do better? Because he thinks he can't, right? Yeah. Another difficulty of step-parenting is that I don't make a purposeful effort to create their shared experiences using our time together. If I don't, he will start drifting away, right? Because there's no bio bond there, and he already has a father. Yeah, so what you have to put in many times more effort than you would with your own kid, and guess what? You get far less return. So it's not worth it. If I don't try hard enough, the relationship will not go anywhere. And it's tiring to try constantly. Yeah. Instead of getting me a woman with no baggage, where I don't have to work as hard, I'm going to pick the worst possible situation because I have no self-esteem. And then there's the challenge of balancing everyone's interests since there are now more people at play. Here's the other issue. Yep, as a step-parent, I find it difficult to discipline my stepson. Correcting a kid's behavior invokes beliefs, values, and expectations, which not all the parental figures involved may agree with. How much can you really do? You're not his dad. My wife and I try to draw boundaries. Yeah, but you're not the real father, so you can't draw boundaries. And she's the wife. She's a woman, so it's not in her toolbox. So the only person who can draw those boundaries is the bio father. So the kid is getting highly inconsistent parenting, i.e. boundaries at the bio daddy's home and no boundaries at your home. That does not make for a good environment for a kid. Yet another reason you don't get with single moms. Anyhow, he goes on to say, I have my preferences for how I want him to be raised, but I can't say I want him to go to this primary school. My views don't matter, as the parents have no rights and no say. Correct! And that is the kind of no power, no hand, no head of household, you're not the head of household at all, position a man should never be in. He goes on to say, there's so many things I can't say, I can't do. It's like fighting somebody with one hand behind your back. So why would you want to be in that situation? Because you're desperate for validation and approval from both the bio mommy and the child. You know how insecure that makes you look, because you are insecure. So this guy's situation seems very emblematic of the situation of a lot of guys. It seems like they're trying to prove something to the world, but really, I think more of it is about proving something to themselves. And I think that there's also some mommy issues there. They get with a woman, she doesn't give them the attention or validation that they want, so they work extra hard to get her validation and approval, just like the attention, validation, and approval that they never got from their mother. She becomes a stand-in for the dysfunctional relationship that he had with mommy, and he's going to work that much harder, extra hard, to gain her approval, the child's approval. He wants to prove something to himself. He wants to prove that he's good enough. He wants to prove that he is worthy of love. And the woman, the wife, the single mommy he's getting involved with, who can't give him the time, attention, or validation that he wants and desires and has a desperate need for, part of that is why he actually gets with her, because that situation is, at the very least, it's known. And though it's dysfunctional and it's not healthy, it makes him feel more secure in its familiarity. So this is a totally, completely unhealthy dynamic, but I've seen it quite a bit. And unfortunately, it's getting worse. And I think this dynamic is at play with a lot of guys that decide to be step parents because they themselves were raised by single mothers who, because you don't have a father there, she's having to work that much more. She has no time to give you the attention, the validation, the care that you need. So you're at the very least always suffering a mild form of neglect, and then you grow up with these mommy issues. You grow up with this gaping hole in your heart where the love and attention and affection and approval and validation that you should have gotten from your mother and would have gotten from her most likely if there had been a father there to pick up the slack, but you never got it. You then go seeking it out in a partner, and you end up choosing women that are just like your mother, and then you get into these toxic relationships to prove something to her and to yourself, and that woman becomes nothing more than a surrogate mommy. It's a very dysfunctional situation, and I see it only getting worse as single motherhood continues to skyrocket. But anyway, let me know what you think, gents. Is this trend growing, and is it going to continue to grow and get worse, i.e., beta male simps with low self-esteem, no self-respect, seeking to prove something to themselves, and they got mommy issues, are going to, in ever greater numbers, continue getting with single mommies? Or are these men going to wake up and realize it's a bad deal? No. Unfortunately, no, I don't think that's going to be the case in most cases. But let me know what you think in the comment section. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. On YouTube, I am the Bachelor Philosopher. On BitChute, I am the Realist Philosopher. And on Rumble, I'm also the Realist Philosopher. And on that note, I am out of here. Leave a comment. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. I wish you all a good and pleasant day. Take care.